Hi everybody, it's Adam, the geneticist and genomic data scientist from Verdure Healthcare. Thank you very much for joining me and welcome to this talk today on NiPT questions and answer. So it is already our fourth episode, so today we're going to talk about something very interesting. Now, as you might know that I'm actually one of the participating consultants and bioethicists on the Nutfield Council on Bioethics. So this is a very good website where you can gain information about medical ethics, the new trends of medicine, and how it relates to the most ethical practices. So if you are interested, you can actually go to www.nutfieldbioethics.org/blog/NIPT-private to have a look at this article on NIPT. Alright, so we are making this episode just to answer a lot of the questions that the participants have. So I'm very honored to be invited to answer those questions. And today, we are going to look at this question from Miss Mary Lee, all right? And she's asking this, actually I screenshot the whole thing. Anyway, so she says, hello, does anyone have experience with or information about trisomy 22? I am 40, healthy, high-risk result on the NiPT for trisomy 22, but normal NT, okay? Doing an amnio next week, there's no information anywhere about this specific trisomy. Thanks. Alright, so needless to say, Miss Mary Lee is deeply worried. Okay, so let me dissect this question first before we move on any further. So we know that this Miss Mary Lee is 40 years old. And to be really honest, okay, she is on a rather higher range in terms of the maternal age, all right? And that's when majority of the trisomies, or so-called the spontaneous genetic mutation, will happen in the fetus. So now she has done the NT scan, which scans the tube at the back of the baby, and that was normal, all right? But then there is a high risk for trisomy 22. All right. Now, to be honest, this is a very rare trisomy. So let's break things down. Today we're going to talk about what is trisomy 22. We're going to talk about what are the causes of this trisomy. And there is a bonus as well I want to share with you, mosaic trisomy 22. And I'm going to explain what is that. I'm going to talk about why NiPT test is more accurate and what should an NiPT test include. And then moving on from that, we're going to talk about what is the next step after if NiPT shows a high-risk result. And we are going to see what kind of people and what kind of qualification is needed for the geneticist or the genetic counselor to have in order to analyze the report for you. Okay, let's just do a bit of a reminder. Everybody, as long as you're healthy, you need to have 23 pairs of chromosomes. From the first chromosome to the 22nd pair, they need to be symmetric in terms of the length and even in terms of the pattern. And the very last chromosome here will determine your gender. If you have an X and a Y, you are a male. If you don't have a Y, you have two X's, you are a female. Okay? So for trisomy 22, every chromosome is normal except for the 22nd pair of chromosome where there is an extra piece. Okay? So some people might thought that, okay, having an extra gene or chromosome is actually a good thing because you have like extra human power or something, but that is actually quite wrong. You cannot have extra or less genetic material in order to be a healthy person. Okay, so in summary of what is trisomy 22, whereby on the 22nd slot where you're supposed to have only one pair, now you have an extra piece. Because of this extra piece, it makes it 3 chromosomes, it's called trisomy. it is a very frequent cause of spontaneous abortion during the first trimester of pregnancy. Okay, progression to the second trimester and live births are really, really rare, and there is honestly not much data about it. So according to clinical records, so far there's only been 29 live-born cases with trisomy 22, and all of them died before the age of 12 months. That is a really nasty disease. Okay, so what actually caused trisomy 22? Okay, in order to answer that question, we're going to have to look at how genetic inheritance and genetic mutation works. Okay, so under normal circumstance, the mother and the father will give only half of their genetic material. Now remember, we talked about each person must have 23 pairs of chromosome in order to be healthy. And you're not going to give all of that to your next generation. Your body mechanism will select only half of it randomly. And if that happens, your baby will each have 50% from mom and 50% from dad. Your baby would be fit and healthy. However, if on either side, the father or the mother actually gives this offspring an extra chromosome, then this baby will have 3 chromosomes in total. All right? And that is not normal. Okay? So using the trisomy 22 as an example, whereby for some reason, okay, in this case, the mother's egg has an extra piece of chromosome in that slot, and the father has a normal set of chromosome inherited to the child, then the child will be having 47 chromosomes instead of 46. Okay? All right. So that is the cause of trisomy 22. Okay? However, there are certain people who might not have the whole complete trisomy 22. Now, what do I mean by that? I know this is extremely confusing, so I would appreciate if you can try to understand what is mosaic trisomy 22. Let's go back to the basic a little bit, okay? Where are our chromosomes? Okay, you see, on the surface of the skin, there are so many cells, okay? And within each and every one of those cells, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, so that's where they are. Okay, if that is the case, how about if there's only 43% of your cells that has trisomy 22, but 50%, 57% of the cells are having normal chromosome. Okay, so as you can see where this confusion actually comes from then. So you are about half abnormal and half normal in that case, right? That is called mosaicism. Okay, so in that case, you might not show any symptom at all. Okay, however, though, your next generation might be affected. Okay, so this is how mosaic trisomy 22 works. Honestly, it can happen on any other chromosome, for example, chromosome 1, chromosome 9, chromosome 17. Mosaicism can happen everywhere. Okay? Right. So in that case, what should an NiPT test include? Okay, and then I'm going to share with you a bonus section onto how to reduce the risk of having any kind of trisomies. Okay, so most basically, an NiPT test should check for all 23 pairs of chromosomes to see if they have anything duplicated, for example, longer chromosomes, shorter chromosome, which is the deletion mutation, or things that have been swapped around. So for example, if this piece of genetic information was supposed to be on 22nd pair of chromosome, but now it has gone to the second pair, for example, we will be able to see that as well. And then, of course, we want to be able to see if their sex chromosome is normal. Because if you go back to my last talk, which is episode 3, I've talked about the triple X syndrome. Okay? Although, of course, sex chromosome aneuploidies or abnormalities are less severe, but still it's just not nice. And part 3, we will be checking for an extra 84 Asia's most common genetic diseases. For example, like Cry-to-Cat syndrome, Angelman syndrome, DiGeorge syndrome, Wilson syndrome, etc., etc. All right? So here we go. We want to have a look at if, let's say, there's any trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome on the baby, Edwards syndrome, which means that on the 18th pair, there's an extra piece of chromosome, and Patau syndrome, which means that on the 13th pair, there is an extra piece of chromosome there. Okay, so of course it can happen anywhere. For example, second, third, fourth, fifth pair, it can happen basically anywhere. So that is why we need to check all chromosomes. Okay, let's have a look at the risk analysis here. So many people might think that, okay, the higher the maternal age, the easier it is you'll get something like Down syndrome or mental disability on the baby. This is true. Honestly, this is true. And how does that work? Let me explain. Okay, so this is the risk, okay, and this is the maternal age. So the red line actually adds up all the 3 diseases we just talked about, which is Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, and Patau syndrome. So the opportunity being added up together. So as you can see, before the age of 30, over here, the chances of getting a baby with any of those syndromes is very low. It's in fact quite low. But if you go to the extreme end here, at 49 years old, every 1 in 8 babies will get either Down syndrome, Edward, or Patau syndrome. And this blue line is just on Down syndrome itself. So as you can see, within the same group, every 1 in 11 babies will be getting Down syndrome. So if we go back to Miss Mary Lee's case, she is already 40 years old and she's right here. So as you can see, compared to 30, there is a significant increase of risks. Why? And what is the mechanism that causes this? All right. So usually this is related to the gametes or the sperm and the egg cells. So because for ladies, before you were born, you already have all of those follicles, which is the eggs, immature eggs that you have been stored in the ovaries, and after you are born, you will not make any fresh ones anymore. Okay? And so you can take it this way, whereby these eggs will age as you do. And when that happens, every time when you ovulate, the follicle has to grow into a matured egg. And during this process, there might be some genetic errors that has been in there. So in that case, it is easier for a high maternal age mother to actually give, again, I'm going to quote that, give the genetic disease to the baby. All right? Okay. And through this NiPT test, you should be able to tell if the baby is a male or a female. Okay, so let's have a look at the sex chromosome abnormalities. Okay, so for example, the XXY syndrome is also called the Klinefelter syndrome, whereby this is a boy, but he will have severe sexual immaturity. For example, no sperm being produced, breast swelling, more feminine, something like that. And then let me give you a lady example. If this is a girl and she has got 1 extra X chromosome missing, this is called the Turner syndrome, whereby she will have short stature, webbed neck, and also sexually undeveloped. All right, and how does this 84 Asia's most common genetic disease actually work? Isn't Down syndrome already a genetic disease? Okay, here is another part that is quite difficult to understand, but try your best to. So when we have a chromosome, what is a chromosome anyway? A chromosome is actually the genes or the DNA being packed together into a neat package. So after we've analyzed the chromosome, which is the most superficial part of the whole test, we're going to zoom in, okay? We're going to zoom in to see the DNA that has been embedded or already packed together in the chromosome. And with these diseases, such as Wilson's disease, you don't need to have another chromosome or having the entire piece being deleted in order to have this disease. All you need is just a couple of genetic codes being swapped around, you will be having that particular disease, okay? And we're going to detect all of those, all 84 of those. Okay, so how does NiPT work? Actually, the moment you get pregnant, okay, you will somehow get a connection with the baby. But after 10 weeks, okay, when the baby is more stable, you will actually be communicating with the baby in terms of giving him the nutrition, and the baby gives you back the waste products and metabolisms, okay, through the placenta and the umbilical cord. With that being said, your bloodstream will have the baby's DNA. So when we take 10 milliliters of blood from the mother, we will be able to separate the baby's DNA and the mother's DNA. Okay? So in that case, we will be able to detect if the baby is normal or not. Okay, so you might have already heard from Miss Mary Lee from the question just now that she's going to do something called the amnio. So the proper name of this is the amniosynthesis. Okay, so some of you might have heard of this before, but this test is rather invasive because the doctor needs to insert a needle into the tummy, into this empty area, in order to take the amniotic fluid. All right, so there is of course the chance of the baby hitting the needle. There is also a chance of this wound being infected, something like that. So more or less there is a 3% chance of miscarriage if you do amniocentesis. And that is why we encourage every parent now to do NiPT first, and if let's say there's any content showing medium or high risk, only then we will organize the amniocentesis for you. We'll probably refer you to a specialist obstetrician gynecologist. Okay, so given that being said, can a general counselor, or let's just put it in other words, what kind of specialist and qualification is needed in order to help you analyze this kind of a report? Okay, certainly not something that any general counselor can do. So let me introduce a bit of my qualification background. I'm actually having 2 specialist certificates from Tsinghua University, one of which is histology, which is the study of the human tissue structures, and also pathology, which studies the origin of the disease and also their basis. Okay, and I've also taken my studies up one further step to Peking University, University of Beijing, in pathophysiology. All right, and I'm also having the postgraduate certificate in surgery from the Royal College of Surgeons of England. So I'm initially certified as an instructor of surgery. Okay, but even with that being said, it is still not enough for me to talk about genetics with you, because in order to talk about genetics in front of the client, you need a specialist qualification like this. All right, and I'm a certified geneticist by Stanford, having this certificate, and because we follow the US system, and now the US is getting more stricter and stricter, even if you are certified as a geneticist, if you want to talk about genetic testing with your client, you need to be further certified. So I'm certified by Harvard Medical School in the genetic testing and sequencing technology, which is basically the genetic testing technology. Alright, and I'm also one step further certified by the Johns Hopkins University in Genomic Data Science. As you might have heard, I've introduced myself earlier in this video. I'm a genomic data scientist. Okay, and all of these practices must be certified by a professional organization. So we, Verdure Healthcare, and our practice is being certified by the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, and me as the medical director and geneticist over here, I am a member of this organization. Okay, and so given that being said, who is going to run the NiPT test literally? So the organization or the lab that's running it is called DNA Lab. Okay, the name is very straightforward. They have been in Malaysia for many years, and over the past they have won many awards as well. And at Verdure Healthcare, we are a super brand fertility center, and we have been in here for more than 18 years already. So thank you very much for your kind support, and we hope to continue bringing you the best service in terms of fertility and also genetic testing. And also we have won the Reader's Choice Award in 2021. This year, 2022, we have not just only kept the super brand status, we have also won the Reader's Choice Awards 2022 for two things: the best fertility specialist center in Kuala Lumpur, and also the best NiPT and genetic counseling services. So more details will be released very soon. Okay, so if you are currently pregnant, if you're currently, especially when you are already in the 10th or 11th week of gestation, please do give us a call. We would love to hear from you. And honestly, just now the information we have shared is just only some basic ones. And if you would like to do this test, we need to send you further information. And I've also have a very detailed video about what is NiPT that you should know before you do the testing. And after the test, we will personally analyze the test results for you. If touchwood, if necessary, we will personally refer you to an obstetrician gynecologist for detailed follow-ups. Thank you very much. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found the information useful, and I shall see you next time, and we'll talk about chromosomal abnormalities. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.